Hello and welcome to the Voice of Liberty podcast. My name is Henry Conley. I am sitting down with Nickolas Wildstar, candidate for mayor of Fresno, California. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. Great to have you on the show. Awesome to have yet another local candidate and another mayoral candidate on the show. We're going to do this one a little more freestyle. I found that last time we had some local candidates on here, it just flowed so much better when we had a little bit of a freestyle talk back and forth. And there goes the sign.
I knew that was going to happen sooner or later. You can go ahead and continue.
So I wanted to dive kind of into the first thing I think maybe the constituents in your area would love to know about you is how'd you get involved politically, and was it initially with the Libertarian Party, or where do we start out here?
No, I mean, unfortunately, like most is they get indoctrinated into politics straight after high school, based on their family politics, Growing up as a black man in a low-income neighborhood, I was, raised Democrat. So I was always told to support a Democratic candidate blindly, faithfully, for no apparent reason at all. But I'm a thinker. I think for myself, So I did unfortunately vote that way until I started to pay more to the political scene and those candidates that were running for office. And it wasn't until Barack Obama came along and his candidacy where he was running for president where I kind of got fed up with being a Democrat, simply because he had touted about how he was against, the big banks the entire time he was campaigning. And then a month into his, him being elected, he's bailing out the banks instead of we the people, and of course using our tax dollars to do so, which is unfortunate because that's just keeping business same old as in politics, as he said he wanted to get rid of. Not to mention on top of that, he gets a $500,000 bonus from Goldman Sachs. So I'm just like, okay, this guy is bought out and clearly not the advocate of we the people as I had hoped. So at which point I got fed up with being a Democrat or political parties altogether and the political scene, and really became more so anti-government and got involved in the Occupy Wall Street protests here in California as an anonymous protester. So I used to go out there, protesting with my Guy Fawkes mask, which I still wear from time to time, but this was around 9/11, and it really opened my eyes to how those policy changes that they make in Washington actually can affect our day-to-day lives. For instance, with the Patriot Act, now all of a sudden, if I go to the library, the books that I'm taking out at the library are being tracked by the government. My online purchases are being tracked by the government. I remember traveling before the TSA was pretty much created. So it's unfortunate that as a young man, in my short lifetime, I've seen such a implementation of authoritarianism, and it's just, it takes away all of the freedoms and liberties that we think we have as Americans. So I used to love flying before TSA. Now I hate it, like most people. And, and what's sad is our children will never know the difference because they'll be, raised in that atmosphere where they don't see anything else. We're going to be sounding like our elders talking about back in my day,
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So, just seeing all of this happen, I really became anti-government, like I said, but still seeing how government policies affected our lives. So you can't ignore that. And with me being a protester out there, swelling my feet as a demonstrator, marching up and down and all sorts of rallies, I looked at what we were doing, and I really felt like we wanted to have that change politically And if we did really want to make it stick, we needed to get involved with politics opposed to being against it, like the majority of the people in that crowd was saying. So I myself decided to get involved politically and run for office. I ran for governor in 2014 as an independent candidate. I chose to run for governor because I feel like we need to attack our leadership from the top versus from the bottom up, as most people would suggest, like, hey, why don't you run for city council or assembly or, a smaller position and then work your way up, when we the people can't afford for that, especially with what's happening in our lives, our day-to-day lives. We're seeing those attacks on our liberties happen immediately. I mean, just look at what's going on in Virginia right now with their Second Amendment, stature.
It's about to get nuts down there.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're seeing this happen slowly but surely all over the country. I mean, even here in California, you got the governor proposing to take over the electric company, the utilities for the entire state. And there's already been rolling blackouts because of PG&E, and it's not going to get any better if it's state owned, So for people to, for some reason, insanely think that, once government gets in control, everything's going to be perfect is asinine. You can just look at history and it'll tell you differently. But if we don't remember history, if we don't reflect on history, then we're bound to repeat those same mistakes. So knowing those, historical mistakes from the past, I'm looking ahead to the future, knowing that our leadership sucks, wanting to do something about it, knowing that the political climate is changing. It's now becoming more radicalized. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be left wing or right wing or whatever the case may be, you have candidates that are stepping up and expressing more radical ideas. Why not do that on the premise of libertarianism? Since that's what is one of the founding principles of our nation, liberty and justice, for all. So let's be radical about that principle. So I live my life in a way that is exactly that. I'm very popular on YouTube for battling against cops, for abuses of authority, whether they're
pulling. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shoot. You're going to have to send me your YouTube. I love watching those videos.
I have over 5 million views on YouTube.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, it's just crazy because I never thought when I started to just stand up for my rights. That's really just how I looked at it. You know what I mean? I'll still look at it is if I get pulled over by an officer for speeding, then I'm going to let them know, hey, you're enforcing laws that really don't exist. They're statutes, they're probations, they're
laws where the state is the victim, which is
exactly a traffic code.
Absolutely fucking impossible.
Yeah, a traffic code or a penal code is not a law. The only law of the land is according to the Constitution. We, the people, have many rights and freedoms and liberties that aren't stated there in the Constitution. Many people, I don't know, for some reason, think that all of the only ways that we can live our life is put on writing in the Constitution. That's not the way it works, people, okay? That's a contract with us and our government officials to say these are the specific rights and liberties that you are responsible for respecting and protecting. And unfortunately, we're just not holding our government officials accountable to do so. So I took it upon myself as one of those individuals that complained about, those things myself, the shortcomings of government, to get involved myself. I mean, we say not to put the responsibility of making things better on someone else. If you want things done right, do it yourself. Right?
Exactly.
So I want things to be better here in my state. I want things to be better here in my community. So when I ran for governor in 2014, I ran as a write-in candidate. I got about 12 votes in a statewide election as a write-in. And I know that may seem like it's not much, but try running for a state office wherever you are, even if it's the smallest state, and get 12 votes. Better yet, as a write-in candidate, okay?
I was gonna say, as an independent write-in candidate,
Yes,
getting 12 votes in a statewide election. You know what?
Yeah, you get one vote, you're like, hey, I did something right.
Hey,
you know?
even if that vote's from yourself, you're like, yeah.
Right. But I did get introduced to the ideas of libertarianism, thankfully, by Dr. Ron Paul. I got attracted to his 2012 campaign for president. Yeah, he just turned my eyes towards a better America and what it really should be, one that is respectful of our freedoms, one that is financially responsible, one that is respecting my body, my wishes, my choices, one that is not sending my children, me, myself, or my family members or friends off to senseless wars for no reason, you know. And all of those things just rang a bell with me. The Liberty Bell, so to speak, went off. And ever since then, I've been an advocate of libertarianism and chose to get involved as a Libertarian Party member in 2016. And that's when I then gained the endorsement from the Libertarian Party as the candidate for governor in 2018 in the last election. So thankfully, because of that, since the Libertarian Party is the third largest party in the United States, you know, and here in California, they have a great presence. There's nearly 1 million registered libertarians. I don't know how much it was during then, but yeah, the numbers are creeping up insanely. That's why sooner or later, we will have our first libertarian governor, if not president, sooner rather than later. But yeah, so here in California, because of the number of registered libertarians, I was able to get 12,000, nearly 12,000 votes.
Wow.
And that's still without much money behind me, because that's the one thing that the Libertarian Party does lack, is the amount of funding, unfortunately, because we are trying to sell people a dream here, versus the other two parties have found it profitable, making, you know, millions of dollars off of the lie, selling people the lie.
A false promise.
Yes, of course. I mean, I work in sales, and if you can sell this right here, you know, lying to people, you know, that seems to make you a better salesman than if you're an honest salesman and just say, hey, this is exactly what it's going to do, and I want to give you a fair price for it, you know. And a lot of people appreciate it, but at the same time, the glitz and glamour is with the lying salesman, you know, and that's what the two-party system represent, are lying salesmen. As much as they try to sell us on individual freedoms and liberties and respecting our property rights, whether it be our body or actual physical property, our home, our car, or our guns, or whatever the case may be, they don't. You know, the Republican Party has their infringements on that, and so does the Democrats. So getting away from that now, I feel like, is a responsibility of every American citizen that wants to do their due diligence when it comes to voting.
That's awesome. So let's shift over into Fresno. Tell me a little bit about your city. You know, I personally have never been to California outside of Magic Mountain.
That's a wonderful place to go, absolutely. But we have some great mountains here, you know, in Fresno. In the neighboring areas like Yosemite Falls, we're out near some of the larger park areas like that. So it's wonderful here in Central California. That's where it's more so located, in the central part of California. And there's nearly 500,000 people, or over 500,000 people, pardon me, here in Fresno. It's the 5th largest city in California, and that's mainly because of the large financial sector that it is for the agricultural businesses here in Central California. So you got, you know, the large farming industry here. You have a few tech industries here as well, like distribution centers for Amazon and Google. So which pretty much is the same. But yeah, so it's a flourishing city, but just like every other city, it has its problems, you know. Unfortunately, it has one of the lowest rated educational systems in California. That's mainly due to funding, you know, shortages. But if you look at the money that's coming through Fresno, there's lots of money coming into Fresno, but it's being mismanaged, misappropriated. You have city officials that get paid, you know, six-figure salaries, ridiculous amounts of money just to do nothing. We have nearly 900 city officials here in Fresno that get paid six-figure salaries. Okay,
Holy cow.
we have fire police chiefs that get paid $250,000 a year plus benefits, and it's yeah, exactly, and it's just
shit.
they're not the firefighters that are actually out there fighting the fires and getting underpaid to do that job. So as mayor, that's one of the things that I would like to do is, of course, get down to the bottom of where our money is being spent here as taxpayers and start giving those money to emergency personnel that actually deserve it. Like
that drops my jaw because makes me drop my jaw because where I come from, and I'm formerly, we're all volunteer firefighters out here. I'm a former volunteer firefighter. Wow. So hearing that a chief's getting paid $250,000, holy crap.
Right. It makes you want to move to California, right?
Yeah, suddenly I want to become a resident of Fresno, okay?
Exactly. Well, see, that's the thing is what we're experiencing here in Fresno is like a statewide, issue that's happening. You know, it's being experienced all throughout the state. Even in Fullerton, where my wife and I moved from recently, there was tons of embezzlement scandals, and you hear about city officials spending taxpayers' money on hotels and fancy vacations and trips, extravagances that were just, again, funded by taxpayers. So when you know all of this, what's one way to hold them accountable? That's the only way that we can hold our city officials accountable is by holding them financially responsible. And unfortunately, we don't have any liability clauses on police officers. So when they shoot and kill unarmed civilians or, those that may have, mental issues and maybe wielding some weapon, instead of them actually helping them and they shoot to kill those individuals, that bill gets pushed down to the taxpayers. And that's actually happened here in Fresno to the tune of nearly $1 billion. Okay. It's so bad here in Fresno that the amount of expenses that are being paid out for police shootings or lawsuits where there's been racial discrimination or some sort of discrimination, those payouts have led this city to almost go in red and dip into emergency funds. So, but we still dole out $200 million to the police department and, $100 million to the recreational department, even though we don't see better parks or, or cleaner parks even. So yeah, there needs to be more responsibility here. And unfortunately, the two leading candidates that are running are heavily funded by the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, even though it's a nonpartisan race. And that's because of the special interests that want to continue to control that dominance here in the area and create that, divide in poverty or whatever it is, economical, stability. So it needs to be addressed in more ways than one. And one of the ways that I plan on doing that is reducing all city employee salaries to $60,000, starting with my own. The current mayor gets paid almost, $170,000. So the median income alone here in Fresno is about $29,000. So if the average family is making $30,000, there's no reason that all their representatives should making triple, quadruple that, 6 times that even in some cases. So again, as the new mayor, I'm going to be reducing my own salary to $60,000 and not take any pension during the entire 4 years that I'm in office. So I'm going to be using my money to make sure that my family is, well secure for the future. And I'm going to encourage all other city officials to do the same and actually prevent any new city officials from being able to accept a new pension as well. So the unfunded liabilities is also causing a financial crippling of the people here, having to pay for city officials that have retired and now are getting paid that six-figure pension. The current former police chief, who's now running for mayor, is one of those individuals, and believe it or not, his former deputy police chief was discovered to have been trafficking drugs through the police department. Okay. And he's been arrested. He's right now in federal prison, serving, I believe, 4 to 6 years. But when he gets out, because he had retired before he got arrested, he gets a pension.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Isn't it awful? So we're paying for criminals, real criminals here.
And wait a second, hold on. I gotta say this though. So the police chief, whose deputy chief was doing this, thinks that he's qualified to run a city now.
Yes, he does. And people actually believe that he is also. And it's simply because of his seniority. He's been on the police force for, I believe, almost 40 years, been a police chief for 20 years. So because he's made this contribution to society, people feel like, he's paid his dues and he should be given that spot. I, however, feel differently. I don't think that anybody should just be privileged to just be given any position of power, especially to oversee the crime and, corruption of our city when you're one of those individuals sponsoring that activity, if not turning a blind eye.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, indeed. It's really bad. And like I said, unfortunately, it is up to the people of Fresno because we have to vote. And because of the big, or I would say large segregation here with economical segregation, racial segregation, sexual, preference segregation. There's all sorts of ways that people are divided here, unfortunately, just like most cities. We want to bring those people together. They want to come together. They just don't have a leader to bring them together.
Gotcha.
I want to be that person. And someone such as divisive as the former police chief, or on the flip side of that, a prosecutor for the district attorney's office.
Oh my God.
And those are the top two leading candidates, okay?
I didn't think it could get worse, and then you said that.
Oh, yeah, that's how bad it is. And like I said, the majority of people are mainly only focusing on them, especially media, because they have the majority of the money. They have $500,000 in campaign funds in their bank accounts. But people want different. If you see any of my videos out there, I'm talking to the day-to-day person out here in Fresno, and they're saying they don't want those individuals to be elected.
In fact, I saw yours from today where you were at the farmer's market. And
all right.
I mean, that's and just to interject here, I've said this multiple times on this podcast. We as libertarians, the way we win races is by doing what the other candidates don't do, going door to door, shaking hands with the normal folk. And that's, I got to give you props on that. That was awesome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because I want people to know I'm not just talking about it. I am that. I am the the average American, the everyday people, the hardworking American that goes to work every day to feed his family and keep a roof over his head. The guy that has lived at a point of his life when it was paycheck to paycheck to take care of himself and his family, times where, you know, the light bill was shut off, or it was hard to feed the family, or having to go to jail. You know, it's crazy because you have politicians that speak about wanting to resolve these issues, but yet they've never dealt with them themselves. So how can they ever really have the know-how of how to deal with them if they haven't ever experienced it themselves? So being out there in the farmers market, like you said, I'm able to talk to those people and relate to them one-on-one. And I strongly believe that's the advantage that the Libertarians do have, or any candidate that wants to get away from the two-party system, because it's all about playing politics with them. We want to get away from that. We want to let people know that we are just like them. We are a person of the community. We're not going to get elected and become some god or some, you know, authoritarian hierarchy, you know, being created out of nowhere, you know. So yeah, it's sad because another issue that we're facing here in Fresno is a large homeless issue. It's mainly stemming from the lack of affordable housing that we have, and of course that's a statewide issue because California just puts a lot of red tape in front of home developers from being able to provide homes. California just created a new law where if you want to build a new home, it has to have solar panels. So if I'm a homeowner or
it just became more expensive.
Exactly. Right. So how can I build an affordable home, an affordable one, you know, family home, if the costs are expensive for me? Of course, when I go to rent that, lease that, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to want them to make that money back. And how can you blame a business owner for wanting to do that? You know, profit off of their investment. So, of course, that's one of the main things I would love to do as mayor, is remove all of the red tape, the zoning laws, you know, the licensure fees, permit fees, etc., preventing these homes from being built. Another thing is the city has been giving millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to build homes, yet they won't, simply because you have those groups of people, they call them NIMBY, not in my backyard type of people, where you know, they simply just don't want who they look at as being, you know, vagrants or transients in their backyard. But if you come to Fresno, there's tons of desolate areas. I mean, it's farmland, it's underdeveloped, you know, areas in the inner city. So it's like that could easily be turned around and developed into areas where we can house those people that need immediate homes, like families that have small children, or homeless veterans that have sacrificed their lives to, you know, protect our country, yet they're put on the street. So we want to help those individuals, definitely, and I believe I can do so quickly by building 3D printed homes. You can Google it.
I like that idea because that's a technology I love.
Exactly. See, and it's a technology not being utilized at all by our government, by our state government, federal government, whatever, city government. So what I would like to do here in Fresno is actually utilize it to where we're building these 3D printed homes that can be built in less than 24 hours, less than $5,000 each. And if we could build a small community just to show people, hey, you have people out there that really just want to get back their lives, some normalcy, and, you know, have an opportunity to rebuild their lives from whatever shortcoming that they've experienced that put them on the street. And if we can show some compassion, because it's the area that Fresno is very conservative, and conservatives, unfortunately, are considered to be not as caring as the bleeding heart liberals. I plan on proving otherwise. You know, I speak to a lot of conservatives that really do want to help those people that are homeless. They just don't see how it could happen. You know, they aren't being presented with a reasonable solution, one that makes sense. And that's what I want to do as mayor, is provide them with common sense solutions, everybody, anybody, all of the people in Fresno to say, here's a common sense solution. Do you guys agree? And I believe they would strongly agree with the 3D printed homes to help those in need.
It's a beautiful idea. So I see on your sign there, you got March 3rd, 2020. Is that your election, or is that like a primary day or something?
Yes.
It is the election. Wow, it's coming up really fast.
Yeah, that's Super Tuesday. California bumped up its primary, so it's no longer in June, people. If you're sitting around thinking, you can wait until then to vote for a new president or, city council member or mayor even. March 3rd, 2020, if you're in California, Super Tuesday. You're going to hear about it in the news. Get to the voting booths. Vote. Vote, vote, vote. Vote Libertarian, okay? Yes, because a lot of people, they also don't care about the primary and focus on the general election in November. No, this is what's most important. Want me to tell you why? Because in California, we are a top 2 state, meaning that the top 2 candidates, regardless of your party, proceeds to the general election. So if you don't vote on March 3rd, you can have 2 Republicans or 2 Democrats even go head to head in November. And that's a possibility because it's happened already. Isn't that awful?
Ooh.
It robs you as a voter from ever being able to choose from something different, from opposing views. Yeah, so because of this top 2 law or whatever rule in California, we now have less choices. And that's why the March 3rd primary is what's most important, people. So please be sure to go out and vote March 3rd, Super Tuesday. Wildstar for mayor.
There we go.
And of course, all of your presidential candidates, they'll be there as well. If you don't like Trump, want to do something about it, or you don't like any of the Democratic candidates either, be sure to get your ass to the voting booths March 3rd, 2020, okay? Vote Berman 2020, taxation is death. Just had to say that,
Well, we know who you're supporting.
Oh, yeah.
No, Berman's a great guy. I have to say that. I had him on the show. He's awesome. I've had most of the big names on the show so far. They're all great people. And I mean,
yeah, they are.
If you hate the Democrats and you don't like Trump and you want to find someone to vote for, just start looking up, any of the candidates I've interviewed for POTUS, except for a couple. They're great.
Well, the thing about the Libertarians, I would say, is they have more genuine people about their proposals for this country than the Republicans or Democrats. You know that they're lying through their teeth. You know it.
Oh, yeah.
You know it. Quit lying to your people, to your salespeople. You know it. So, at least if you hear a Libertarian out, even if they're talking about, sending ponies to the moon. I believe that's what Vermin wants to do, right? Or something.
Free ponies for everyone and zombie
ponies
energy.
For everybody. Even if he's proposing something that seems so outlandish as that. Hey, hear out everything else he has to say. And I bet you some of those things you're going to be like, it's going to make you think. Okay? And that's all I'm saying.
Well, I have to say, our candidates, they are the most genuine candidates out there, whether it's at a local level, a state level, or a federal level. And, we do have our candidates like Vermin who use satire to break that ice because, as I've said so many times on this show, 45% roughly of the voting population did not come out in 2016. We can't have that happening again. And they're never going to vote suit and tie. And that's something I wanted to say about you. That video you were doing, you weren't out there in a suit and tie. You looked like a normal person, and that's what people want to see. People are tired of that suit and tie politician that, I'm better than you because I got a suit and tie,
Yeah, I mean, I have my blazers in my closet. I like to play up the part every now and then. But, today it was just too damn cold. And I went out there with this sweater on,
Wait, what's cold in California? I just got to ask.
Oh, yeah. Cold in California is about 60.
Whew, I would love that right now. It's sleeting outside right now.
Let me see what my temperature says on my phone here. I can let you know exactly. Mine says 52 degrees outside right now.
Geez, I would take that because it's 25
got,
degrees outside right
oh,
now.
God, no. See, that's why I left Wisconsin, man. I said, I can't do this cold anymore.
Oh, man, dude, it's horrible.
It's just way too extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah, the 25 below zero, no.
No thanks.
Yeah, exactly. See, and that's when I invite you to come to California because the sun will be shining. It will be it'll be 60 degrees. You may see Californians acting like they're freezing their asses off. But if you're walking around in shorts, no one is going to look at you differently.
Hey, listen, if we get a libertarian governor out there, I'll consider it. But I've often said I am terrified to live in a state where one singular fault could end my life. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's true. It is a mighty fault line here in this state. But hey, if we end up breaking away, it'll still be a pretty party and island. Still
Definitely.
be having partying away in Hollywood.
So I guess do you want to give any final statements, plug anything, your campaign website, any events coming up?
Absolutely. Well, to anyone and everyone out there, please be sure to support all of your candidates. I myself am a longtime civil rights activist, and as I said during the interview, I got involved in running for office from my activism. So if you're out there and you feel encouraged as an activist to get involved, to make those changes politically, whether it be, police abusing their authority, or, you see your roads and you want them to be better. Run for office, please, whatever office it may be, whether it be mayor, city council, city, senate, governor, president, okay? Run for office, please, because we need more true representatives of we the people. That's what I'm attempting to do here in Fresno. So if you're a resident of Fresno, please be sure to visit my website, wildstar2020.com, wildstar2020.com. You'll be seeing these signs all around town. I am looking for volunteers and supporters, so please go on my website and fill out a contact form. I review those personally. I will contact you personally. It won't be one of my staff, personnel. It'll be me communicating with you, because I want to make myself readily available to you, not only right now, but once I get into office as well, because transparency is key in order to hold our public representatives accountable. So as someone seeking that position myself, I want to make sure that I'm expressing that in every way, shape, and form. So please be sure to visit my website, wildstar2020.com. If you do not live in Fresno, you can still support me by visiting my website, governorwildstar.com, because I'm still going to be the representative of we the people, for the people, and by the people. So I am the governor of the people. Visit me at governorwildstar.com. And, of course, check out my YouTube videos. Enjoy all of me, all of my videos of me fighting the cops, fighting the courts, all of that. Please spread the word, because that's what's going to help us get more attention. We don't get much publicity from mainstream media. So it is up to you, the citizen journalists out there, people like this man right here, okay? and that's what we need. Voices of Liberty, more podcasts like this out there, giving the stage and opportunity for libertarian candidates to be heard, libertarian activists to be heard, and just those proponents of libertarianism all together. So please spread the word. YouTube, send my videos. I got Instagram. Please support me on there. Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. So please be sure to connect with me, and let's bring back liberty. All right.
Awesome. And thank you for coming on the podcast, man. It's awesome to have yet another voice of liberty on this podcast. And just a couple of announcements for the podcast before I close this one out. We are officially switching to a scheduled system. So for those that did not see the Facebook post on our page, all of our recorded interviews, like this one right here, will be coming out on Tuesdays now at 6 p.m. Eastern. And on Thursdays, even though I have not met the Patreon goal that I had set forward, I will be doing a live show at 8 p.m. Eastern every Thursday, and it will cover topics all over the place. The first one, this coming Thursday, will be patriotism. What is it? And, well, that might turn some heads. So,
watch some of my videos before you talk about patriotism too, because I get argued on that.
I'm gonna have to.
Please, thank you.
I hopefully won't get any death threats off of this first live one, because it's gonna trigger some people.
I'm sure it does. We always do, trigger some people and push
exactly
libertarian. So that just means we're doing the right damn thing.
Exactly.
So, keep agitating, as Frederick Douglass said.
Yes.
Right?
And second shameless plug here, and this is the most important one because it helps me keep this podcast going. If you like the videos I'm putting out, please go to patreon.com/voiceofliberty71. I have 3 different tiers on Patreon. The benefits within those tiers are going to be updating soon. As soon as we get some subscribers in, we can start really making those a lot sweeter. And as always, with the Voice of Liberty podcast, my name is Henry Conoly. Awaken the voice of liberty.